Yeah.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another one of our networking sessions. I hope everybody is having a great week. If this is the last day before your half term, congratulations. If you've got another week to go, I'm sorry, but just think of everybody when they're going back again and you're having your week off. I am delighted tonight to welcome Sue White from Widgit, who is going to give us a little bit of a demo of Widgit, talk about Widgit with us, talk about how you can use it. And Sue is going to explain the difference between the different Widgit products, because I know how often that question gets asked. And I do know the answer, but I know I don't explain it very well. So we've got Sue along to come and explain it for you. Over to you, Sue.
For having me here. I'm very jealous that you're getting a half term. It's one of the things I miss most about not working in school. Obviously miss the children, but the holidays I do miss. So I'm an ex-primary school teacher. I've been with Widgit for nearly 5 years. I was a primary school teacher, a primary school SENCO, and then I worked for the local authority as an SEN advisor. And I've always used Widgit, literally back in the 1990s when it was on a floppy disk. And my journey into symbols and visuals began in my NQT year, actually, when I had a child who I know now was clearly dyslexic, but at the time SPLD wasn't really recognised and we didn't really know much about it. But all I saw were his incredible outbursts and his frustration. And I was looking for a way to support his learning through differentiated text, through making him less anxious about what was coming next, and was looking for something visual. Now, remember, this is back before Google, this is back before images, and I am not an artist. So drawing was something very difficult for me. And I managed to find Widgit, and that's how my journey began. So we are going to look at the difference between Imprint 3 and Widgit Online. But what I want to do is to just show you how symbols can be used throughout the classroom and used for all inclusive in many, many ways. So there is a short presentation. I think there's quite a lot on these slides, and I apologise for that, but I wanted to show you some examples of the types of resources that you could make using the symbols, and also, again, to explain the differences between Imprint 3 and Widgit Online as we go along. At the end of this session, I will do a little demo of the programs as well, and then we'll have some questions, I believe, towards the final part. So Gavin's going to drive the PowerPoint for me. So if I could have the next slide, please. Okay. So we want to talk about why we use visuals and why we use symbols. And we all use visuals in our daily life. You know, essentially, they're a quick and easy way to deliver information. So particularly if you think about being in a foreign country and you want to know where the toilets are, you want to know where the departure lounge is, you want to know where the taxi is if you want to get out of the airport, for example. We use road signs, we use the labels on washing for our clothes. So we're all used to using those. And it's no different for children. But the benefits, in fact, are even greater, as accessing text for many can be challenging, as can retaining spoken information delivered in the classroom. I'm going to be talking a lot. There's some visuals, you can see them, they're going to help. But you know, we do talk a lot in the classroom and it's a lot for the children to take in. So if there is visual support, it can really help them. Words are transitory. They disappear as soon as we've spoken them, but visuals are permanent. And you've got a really nice statistics there from the Visual Teaching Alliance, which actually blew my mind when I looked at the fact that visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than the brain, and that 90% of information transmitted to the brain is visual. So it's pretty key. And also, for those of you that are working in primary, looking at particularly young children, our Key Stage 1 learners, they are very visual learners, almost entirely left brain learners until their brains begin to lateralise at around age 7. So again, visuals is an excellent way to support them. I'll give them the next slide, please. Thank you. I wanted to kind of look at why people would use symbols. So this is an infographic that we produced a while ago, the 9 reasons to use symbols. And I'm going to talk through each of these throughout this presentation. So next slide, please. So starting with symbols only including relevant information. And you will have heard me already skip between the word visual and the word symbol. The difference is that a symbol is very clear and concise. It only contains the information that you need to inform and help you understand that vocabulary or that concept. And widget symbols follow what we call a schema, a set of rules. That means that the set is a living language. So like BSL, it grows and it's predictable in its approach. For example, we always have prepositions represented by a red circle. So if you have a red circle on a box, a white box, then that's representing the preposition on. If the red circle is under the white box, then it's representing under. The symbols are gender, age, and culturally neutral, and they've been designed in the first instance to enhance the access and understanding of text. They do act as a communication tool, and our symbols are used a lot in AAC, so augmentative and alternative communication devices, in aided language boards and core vocabulary boards, but they were initially designed to support the access to text. And that's what makes widget symbols different from other symbol sets that are available. And it makes them ideal for explaining concepts and vocabulary. So if we have a look at the next slide, it's giving you some examples of how you might use the symbols to support vocabulary. Tier 2 and Tier 3 words. So Tier 2 words, wow words, Goldilocks words, the words that we want children to be able to use in their writing, but they may not yet have come across. And Tier 3 words, topic words, that they may not have had any information on before. They're totally new words. So if we give them a symbol and we give them the word, then they've got more chance of understanding and retaining in long-term memory that vocabulary. And that's the reference there to Alan Pavio, dual coding. Quite old theory now in terms of having 2 inputs, if you like, into your memory storage. So one goes into the visual side, one goes into the semantic meaning side with the actual word, and then you've got more chance of recalling them because it's in two bits of the filing cabinet, if you like. Now, in terms of the program, just to let you know, the 2 resources on the left-hand side, so the Tier 2 words around Augustus and his smile, and the Tier 3 vocabulary on trees, they have been produced on Widgit Online. The geography definitions on the right-hand side has been produced using imprint 3. The difference mainly within the 2 programs, and this will become more apparent as we go through, is the fact that Widgit Online is what we call template driven. So you have templates and you populate them. Imprint 3 allows you to create your own templates, your own resources, so you can create bespoke resources, hence the arrows and the different layout that you have with the geography definitions. There is a simpler template in Widgit Online that you could use to create those geography definitions as well. Next slide, please, Gavin. Thank you. So again, let's just explore this idea around visuals and photographs and symbols a little bit further. So simply replacing text in the classroom or playground with photographs and drawings may not be the best way to enhance learning for every child. That any type of visual is good, but simple is usually best. And as I explained, that symbol gets right to the heart of the meaning, what you're trying to convey, without any distracting information. So take the example of the library. What do you see? What does an autistic child see? They tend to focus on details, not the whole. So they might be looking at the pillar, they might be looking at the lights, they might be looking at the carpet. They might not understand that a library is a building that contains books. The widget symbol, however, on the just to the side there, is very simple. It follows our schema, so it's a book within a building, signifying all libraries. So whether your library looks like the one on the left or looks completely different, the symbol for library is generic across all libraries. And the idea with the schema is that a building is always represented in that way. So if I was looking at a pub, for example, it would be a pint of beer within the building. If I was looking at a doctor's surgery, it would be the medical sign or a symbol for a doctor within a building. So you've got that logic and that sense, but that simplistic representation of a concept. There are, of course, always times when you will want a specific photograph, particularly for people or places that you might be visiting, or where do I put my book bag, or where do I go and queue up for lunch. So photographs do have a place, but when you're trying to convey a specific understanding and a general concept, that's when symbols come into play. And you can always add photographs into our software. And again, I'll show you that a bit later on. So if we can move on, please. I've stuck these two together. So symbols help reduce anxiety and stress. And as already mentioned, symbols are permanent, with spoken words disappearing. Often, not always, but often anxiety is around not knowing what's happening, not knowing what to do. So if you've got visuals, if you've got symbols, then it's going to support what's happening, what I need to do, and therefore lower anxiety and stress. So again, if we can move on. I'm sure many of you will be aware of this, how it is really difficult to understand and absorb verbal information when you are in a state of high arousal. That can be anxiety, that can be frustration, that can be anger, that can be sensory processing overload or difficulties, because our brain goes into what's called reptilian mode. So the back of our brain, the reptilian part, takes over the central executive, the front thinking part, and it makes it really difficult to process language. We effectively go into what we call fight or flight mode. So the outbursts that you get in the classroom, or the literal running away, or the withdrawal. So flight can be withdrawing into yourself, freezing, if you like, as well. But by breaking things down into symbols, you can process that, and that lowers those levels of arousal. Again, next slide, please. So again, some examples of how you might use the software to create resources that are going to help lower those states of anxiety by, in this instance here, recognizing and expressing emotions. So your left-hand side, you have the incredible 5-point scale from Carrie Dunn-Buron, really good again for autistic children, recognizing 5 levels of emotions and 5 levels of anxiety or frustration or anger, and also in that particular resource allowing you to put in something that you can do to bring yourself back down to a different level. So again, just to let you know, the Carrie Dunn-Buron resource on the left-hand side is being produced in Widgit Online. The emotion fans you can do in Widgit Online and Imprint 3. So all of these things you could produce in Imprint 3, but those fans are available as templates in both. The zones of regulation there and the Spectrum Patronum Instagram page, those are Widgit Online, and the ones at the bottom were Widgit Online and cut out and put onto a specific display in the room. So again, having the symbol, allowing the child to reduce anxiety because they're able to express themselves when they're not being able to process language. Next slide, please. I like just pop this one in. It's a really, really good example from a nursery, actually, a preschool setting of the preschool using symbols to support their children to understand emotions and to begin to self-regulate. So this is a nursery school in Bradford, Hurstwood Nursery School. When the children come in the morning, they place their name card next to one of the emotion cards. And then throughout the day, if something happens or their feelings change, they're encouraged to revisit the board and potentially move their name card to a different area. So they're recognizing how they're feeling. They're learning to put the language of emotion to how they're feeling. But also at the bottom, you can just about see in the bottom right of that board, there are coping strategies, suggestions of what the child might do to rectify how they're feeling. So it might be find a quiet space, or talk to a grown-up, or squeeze a toy. So beginning to introduce coping strategies as well as understanding those emotional states. I keep going to press the button for next slide, but sorry, next one, please. And again, here some coping strategy cards. Those were done, the left-hand side were done with imprint 3. You've got the posh cut out, but you could equally do those ones in Widgit Online and the social story in either on the right-hand side. I've mentioned there our wellbeing pack. So obviously, as well as the software, we do produce ready-made resources. Now, the wellbeing pack is a really excellent one that was produced in conjunction with an educational psychologist working in the field of resilience and emotional support, Dr. Jerica Holder. But you can download that for free in a PDF format from our website. The best place to go is just to the main resources page. But you've got the link there as well, and you'll be able to find that one. Next slide, please. Okay, so symbols allow time to process information. This kind of goes with what we were talking about already, that our words disappear, but the visuals are permanent, but also about children with potential speech and language difficulties, children with English as additional language, might have dyslexic type difficulties, who are slower at processing language and information. And if you put all of those groups together, that's a big number in your classrooms. So actually allowing more time to process information by giving a symbol can be helping a large number of children in the classroom setting. So again, we'll have to look at some examples, please. So we've got some fans, we've got now a next board, and we've got a visual timetable there. All of those produced using Widgit Online, as I said before, can be imprint 3, but just letting you know the good online do. And the next slide again, please. So these are, so again, processing information rather than hearing it said aloud and then forgetting what it is that you need to do, or seeing it written down but not being able to decode or necessarily understand the vocabulary, then we can support instructions with symbols. Lovely quote in the middle there from a child at a school in London. Your left-hand side, Chinese New Year puppets, that was produced in imprints. The right-hand side one in Widgit Online. Again, okay, if we just move on, please. So I mentioned a little bit about EAL children, so children with English as an additional language, who may well not have any language to begin with, so symbol dictionaries in both English and their home language, if they are literate in their home language, can be really, really helpful at the outset. But as time moves on and they begin to assimilate language, it's the fact that they can't process it as quickly, so they need more time. So again, the symbols are going to help them, as they do with many of their other peers. Now, these are resources that are produced in Widgit Online. So Widgit Online is the only one of our programs that has the dual language option that will allow you to translate into a second language. Now, as I mentioned, that's only really helpful if your child is literate in their first language. If they're not, then just having a vocabulary card that has the English word and the symbol is going to be as helpful, because they wouldn't be able to read it in their own language anyway. So you can support EAL using Imprint 3, but if you want the dual language feature, the translation, then obviously Widgit Online is your only way to go. I wish there were really easy answers to which is the better program, but both have features and functions that are different from each one, but equally as important. So it really is quite a difficult one, I'm afraid. But again, I'll show you a bit more at the end, and hopefully you'll have a bit more information to go on. Next slide, please. So symbols can prepare us for transitions. So symbols, I suppose traditionally we think about symbols being useful for autistic children, for those who need to know what's happening next to lower their levels of anxiety. And that can be either through now and next boards, visual timetables, or social stories. Again, or transition books when you're moving between each year group, or particularly when you're moving between Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3, for example. Next slide, please, Gavin. So again, here's just some examples of visual timetables, now and next boards. These are made in Widgit Online. And then young Paul saying, I like to see what lesson is next. Traditionally, symbols, visual timetables, been seen as a tool for children with SEND, but the University of Edinburgh actually conducted a study on the use of visual timetables, and they found that they were highly valued and used as frequently by pupils both with and without special educational needs. So it's the sort of thing that supports all the children in the classroom. Everybody likes to know what's happening, and if we add the symbols in, then it just makes it easier to access and easier to process. There is, I don't think it's on the screen there, but I can obviously let people know, there is the information on the study, but it's fallen off the bottom of mine. I'm not sure whether it has yours, but it is something I can let Abigail and Gavin have, so that if you do want that study, then you'll be able to access it. Next one, please. Again, just a couple of examples: transition, routines, what happens when the fire alarm goes off. Can we support the children to understand the noise levels that we require in school? These were ones actually that I produced for a child that I actually taught many years ago, who was autistic and struggled with the fire alarm. But his reaction to the fire alarm going off was to scream even more loudly. So we worked with the routine, we worked with ear defenders, and we worked with the speaking scale to encourage him to react appropriately when the noises got too loud for him. And next one again. So did basic routines, hand washing and getting changed for PE. Both of those can be produced in Widgit Online. The hand washing one is part of our back to school pack, which again you can download for free from the website. If you just go to Symbol Resources, you'll find that one. But can be applied to any sequence. Those of you that are eagle-eyed may have used our software before. The symbols for shoes off and clothes off on the right-hand side strip, you can change the colours of symbols. So we can change it to the colour of school uniform to make it really relevant and appropriate, particularly for those individuals that are very literal. Next slide, please. So mentioned social stories already. Social stories can be written in both Widget Online and in Print 3. You'll get a nicer sort of layout if you use Imprint 3, but both is possible in both programs. And social stories, again, the traditional use, setting out expectations for those on the autistic spectrum or those with anxiety issues. But now I know that a lot of schools are using them generally for the whole class, particularly around obviously something that may be happening that's different. So if it's a supply teacher coming in, or if you've got the pantomime or the, as I say, opera, we've just done some work with the English touring opera. If you've never come across them, they do operas in schools, and they've just produced a set of resources using widget symbols to tell young people what's going on in the opera, so the plot, but also what an opera is and the social story around what to expect, and the symbols in their scenery as well. So when something different is going to happen, obviously use social stories and using the symbol set. And the next one. So help build confidence and independence. So, you know, this again is very generic, goes across all sorts of things. If I can access the text, then I'm more confident about what's happening. I'm more independent about what I need to do. If I am less anxious because I know what's happening next in the classroom, I'm more confident and I can get on with things. So providing a word mat that means the child is supported when they're writing. They can recall specific vocabulary, but they also got the spellings there. Using signage and labelling so children can independently gather the equipment and the resources that they need for the lesson. It makes them more independent, but it also frees up support staff who can be actually involved more with teaching rather than supporting the child to get what they need or understand what they need to do. And giving children the tools to answer difficult questions or express themselves or their emotions can help build resilience, which builds self-esteem, which builds confidence and independence. So it's that it's that positive upward cycle as opposed to the vicious downward spiral. Next slide, please. So again, some examples. So top left is core vocabulary. So I mentioned about children being able to communicate, so being able to point to the words. Your fans at the bottom, child might be selectively mute or pre-verbal, or might just be very anxious about expressing what they want for dinner, but pointing to the fans can really help them. And again, another Carrie Dunbar on that allows the child to be independent in managing their emotions. All of those come from Widget Online. Next slide. Thank you. We talked a lot about emotions, so won't go into that too much more. But again, Widget Online resources. Mind maps, one we've not seen before. And next one, thank you. So independence, confidence comes from understanding the tasks. So using symbols to support differentiation. Again, these are both Widget Online resources. Colourful semantics, there are lots of schools using colourful semantics to support language structure, but adding the symbols can be really supportive for the vocabulary understanding, for your speech and language, your dyslexic and your EAL pupils, among many others. And the next one, again, just wanted to show you a range of what can be created using Widget Online. It is the basic entry program, but it does have an awful lot of templates that you can use. So it has Venn diagrams as well as templates that can be used for the rain cycle there. And the next one, please. This one's quite an interesting one, actually. And again, this is about language throughout the school and throughout the classroom, not just for our children with SEND. So symbols can help children grasp the nuances of language. It's a difficult language, English, to understand and learn, whether you are learning it as your first language or whether you're learning it as a second language. So creating resources, vocabulary mats for tier 2 and tier 3 vocabulary, as we mentioned before, can be really helpful and supportive, but it can also be used to support the meaning and help make the meaning clearer. Could we have the next one? Thank you. So when we're thinking about pragmatics and semantics, for example, and the idioms that we often use, we try not to talk about raining cats and dogs. But, if we did and we symbolized it, then it would be much clearer to a child what we're actually meaning. Pull your socks up. I don't know if anybody heard Radio 4 this morning, the Today programme. They were interviewing a lady who miraculously had managed to escape the Turkish earthquake. And she was talking about it raining, and she said it was raining cats and dogs, which amused me because obviously she'd learnt that particular idiom and was using it in her interview. The rest of it was very sad, I have to say. But also in terms of mathematical language, first time we come across takeaway is probably Chinese or McDonald's, not a subtraction. So being able to explain, I think I'm covering up table at the bottom, but that's a table as in that you fill in sort of table. Being able to show the nuances of language and the different meanings means that your children, have a better idea of understanding the task and actually being able to achieve it. And the next one, please. And that goes around homophones and homographs as well. So many children can read text, but not always understand what they're reading. But if we've got a symbol, and it might only be a few symbols that you put in a piece of text that really help them to understand, particularly those homographs, which meaning it means, then it can really help them to grasp that understanding, to enjoy reading, to want to do more of it, to get better at it. And I know lots of schools that will produce homophone dictionaries for children, again, those EAL children, but I think it applies to all of the class. And the next one, please. Okay, we are coming to the end, so we'll get on to the demo very shortly. Again, a really interesting one about symbols. They have no tone to them. We all know that so much about what we say is not around the words that we use, but around our other side of the communication. So our gestures, our body language, and our tone of voice. We are all teachers here. We all know that despite our best intentions, it's sometimes really hard to keep that tone of voice positive and happy and encouraging when you've had a really awful day and, so many things have happened and gone wrong. But our symbols don't have that tone of voice. So they really just, again, convey what you want the child to do without any underlying body language going alongside of that. Those of you that have come across children with PDA, pathological demand avoidance, the symbols can be really helpful in respect of supporting them to make choices. So with PDA, we don't just generally say do one thing, we will give them a choice. So, do you want to eat sausages or fish fingers, or do you want to write with a pencil or a pen? So you're giving them that choice. But if it's done via a symbol, again, you're taking out any of that kind of reaction to that demand. So symbols are really useful in that respect. And again, I think I've got a couple of slides, thank you, just showing rules and expectations. So around taking that tone of voice out and just listing what you want the child to do. Those are all done in Widgit Online. And the next one, please. So I've included this one because it's a really lovely idea. I don't know whether you've come across it before, but we did some work with Charles Dickens Primary School. You can see that's where the quotes have come from. And they had a lovely idea around behaviour, supporting behaviour in school. So every child, so it was inclusive, every child had a behaviour bingo card. And the elements on the bingo card were specific to that child. So you might have the best behaved child in class, but they might be very shy and not like to put their hand up and answer questions, or they might not like to work with a group, or whatever it is. So everybody had something that they were working towards. And then whenever the teacher saw the child doing that particular thing, then they got a tick, a mark on their bingo card, and then there were obviously rewards, house points, etc., for completion of the bingo cards. But Will Cannock from Charles Dickens Primary School spoke very, very highly about this particular behaviour policy working incredibly well in the school. And again, everybody using the symbols, so it was inclusive. So just thought I'd mention that one because it's a really nice one. Okay, moving on, please. And again, simple target chart and a certificate, both Widgit Online. And the next one. Just wanted again to mention restorative justice because it's a thing that a lot of schools use, and particularly in secondary schools, but a lot of primary schools are starting to use it now as well. And again, how the symbols can be added to the restorative justice information, because again, a child who's had an incident is not going to be in the best place to be able to articulate or to reason, but they will be able to process symbols and to give you the information that you would potentially need. Produced in Widgit Online. And final, please, I think we're nearly, not quite final, but nearly there. I think hopefully I've shown throughout this that symbols help all students. But if you're not 100% convinced, then I'm going to mention modern foreign language. So if we could have the next slide, please. So these are produced in Widgit Online, again with the Google Translate, but everything is editable when you translate. But for those primary schools in particular, where you don't have a native speaker or somebody who's trained in the language, having a resource that allows you to create MFL worksheets and resources can be really, really helpful. And whenever anybody teaches a modern foreign language, it's always taught with a visual to go alongside the vocabulary that you're learning. So why not use the symbols, which, as I said before, are very direct and to the point, to create the resources that you want in the classroom. Widgit Online, because it's got the dual language resource there. Okay, and final one just says thank you, I think, and just some information there. So what I'm going to do now is switch to sharing my screen, and just very quickly, because I know I seem to have talked too much already, is show you Widgit Online and Imprint 3, and talk a little bit more about the differences. So I need to share my screen. Okay, so that's the Widgit website, just so that you can get to the Widgit website that I mentioned earlier for symbol resources. That's the symbol resources. While I'm here, just quickly again, we produced a vocabulary recovery plan called Walking the Talk. You can download it for free. So it talks about supporting individuals to increase their vocabulary, tier 2, tier 3 words using symbols. So if you haven't got that, widgit.com, if you just go widgit.com/vocabulary, you'll find the Walking the Talk. Widgit Online. It's online. That means it's accessible. So any computer or tablet with an internet connection, and you can access Widgit Online. So I think the first question that you need to ask yourself in terms of which product is who is going to be creating the resource. Is it you as SENCO, Or is it your class teachers or subject teachers in secondary schools? Now, it's a while since I was a SENCO, but my class teachers created all the resources for the SEN children in their class. I did some stuff for the whole school, signage, labelling. I did a lot of demonstrating and I did a lot of encouraging, but it was the teachers that created the resource. If it's the teachers that are going to be creating, Widgit Online is probably your best bet because it's accessible. So it's accessible from anywhere. You don't have to find the computer that it's installed on. You just log on through a browser. It's quick and easy to use because you have the templates. So all of those resources that I showed you that were created in Widgit Online used a template. You don't have to design anything, you don't have to format anything. You just literally create. You also have a document side, which is a symbolized word processor. We'll come to that bit in a minute. So if I want to create a resource, create from a template. So template folders, we've seen quite a lot of them in the PowerPoint, but again, in every single one, lots of different ones. So I'm going to create a colourful semantics resource, and I'm going to create the same resource in Widgit Online as I do in Input 3, so you can see. So I'm going to choose this picture above 3 words landscape. So it's all formatted. All I do is fill it in. I can get a photograph. So I'm going to go and get my photograph. And I'm going to pop that into that top cell with my photograph. And then I'm going to type my text. So these are the teachers. Drinking tea. Okay. Now the database always picks up the first word in your phrase, but on your right hand side you will have all of the symbols that go in with that phrase. So I'm going to choose the teachers and they're drinking, so I'm going to choose drinking. I can change the background colour. This is a colourful semantics resource, so I need to have my who in orange. I need to have my doing in yellow, and I need to have my what, my object, in green. And you can see that you can very quickly and easily change the input and the layout, the content. What I can't do is now add a row or column or merge cells or in any way change the overall look of this. It is fixed. So I always have to choose my template carefully at the beginning. The other thing I can do is I can add another symbol to these cells. So I can have 2 symbols in a cell. I'll just pop it in here to show you. So I get my first symbol. Oh, I've got a photograph there. I get my first symbol. Sorry. There we go. And then I can add a second symbol and go and get my dog. I can't have any more symbols, so I can't symbolize every word. If I want to symbolize every word, I need to do that in my document side. If I just save this, this is another difference in Widgit Online. So 9.03, so you can. I have something called the view that appears on my home screen. I want to edit, go back here on the title. I want to view. Now this view creates a direct link to where this resource is stored in the cloud. That is unique to this resource. So I can post that link in an email, on a homework page, on a website, and anybody click on the link and they will see this resource. They don't need to sign in, they don't need to register, they don't need to pay, they just click on the link and they will see this. They can also hear it read aloud. I don't think I've got that capacity to do that computer to computer, but if you click on the word, it will read it aloud. So for your EAL pupils, for MFL learning, it's really, really good, because with MFL, you also get, say with the dual language, you also get the ability to have words read aloud in that home language, where there is a home language speaker with Google. Just quickly show you one of these. Let's go for Italian. Create. So we create in English. Sorry, I'm just using cat and dog again because they're just quick and easy to work. Sorry, I've got some symbols saved. That's why the different ones are coming up there. And then translate. So you've got your translation. If you want translation, it's Widgit Online. If you want quick and easy, it's Widgit Online. If you want accessibility, it's Widgit Online. Your document side, social stories, differentiated text. Type in and it's symbolized automatically. And you can put photographs in there, just the same as you can put photographs in the templates. Let's have a quick look at Imprint 3 to see the difference. So Imprint 3 is installed into Windows computers. It doesn't work on Macs, Windows computers only. You do have some templates, but most people would start with a blank document. And I'm going to change the orientation of this one because I want it to be landscape like the one that we created. So I'm going to create that same colourful semantics resource, but just do some different things to it to show you. So I can create any design I want, really, but I'm going to do the same one so that we can see initially. So I can bring in a frame. Then I can go and get my table for underneath and put that, oh, didn't need 2 rows, only wanted 1. So made a mistake there, but that's okay because I can delete that row. So now I've just got the one that I wanted. Again, I can put my picture in. There it is. Again, I can type in the same way. This time you'll, oops, you do need to spell. Put that one in. This time you'll see that the symbols are, you get a symbol for each one. We don't use a symbol for the because it's too abstract. Can't spell either. There we go. But again, you can keep that or you can remove it, but at least it gives you the option, which Online doesn't. I can color code this in exactly the same way. So we've got orange. Oops, it's a bit peachy. Got yellow. And we've got blue. No, not blue, green, isn't it? Yeah, green. But this time I'm thinking, oh golly, do you know what? My child is at actually 4 levels, so I want to put where in. So I don't have to worry about Imprint 3 because I can amend. I can go to table layout and insert another column. I do have to resize a bit. Let's just pull that back in. And I'm going to recolor that one now into blue. And they're drinking in the staff room. Two words, staff room. There we go. So you have that flexibility. As you saw, I deleted a row. If I wanted to add another row now, then I can just insert a row below. If I wanted to merge cells for any reason, I can merge cells. If I wanted to put in a header and a footer so that I can have, the topic or the date or whatever it is that I want, then I can insert a header I'm just going to put colourful here just so you've got the idea there. I could remove that cell border by having it transparent. Then if I created lots of other pages, let's just close the header and footer down, we can add some more pages. It will put that header on each of those pages. So it's very much more flexible for creating bespoke resources. If money were no object, and I know that that is not the case in schools, I think you probably would go for Widgit Online for your staff, and probably Imprint 3 for yourself, maybe HLTAs, anybody that's working with children with an EHCP, perhaps, so that they can create very more bespoke and specific resources. Right, hopefully that's better. Sorry about that. I was just saying that you can find the price information from products, Imprint 3, Widgit Online, but the standard subscription for both, 10 installations for Imprint 3, 20 users for Widgit Online, is £295 a year. They're the same price. You also have on both the option to have free trials. So if you haven't got Widgit already, the best thing to do is to have a free trial and see what you think. So if you're going for Widgit Online, just go to free trial, and then in the standard, start the free trial.
No, press it again. Just do it again. There you go. You're back again.
Right. Okay. So any questions?
We have got a couple. Gavin's just going to bring them up on the screen for me. Oh, brilliant. So
okay.
You did actually show us, just remind us, was it's top left, kind of like second block in?
So Widgit Online, the dual language feature is only in the templates. So you need to go to create from a template, and then you need to choose a dual language template. It doesn't work on all of the templates, it only works on the dual language template. So you choose dual language, then it asks you to choose your specific language. Then you type in English, then top left on the formatting bar is Google Translate. Sorry, lots of instructions. We do have help sheets and webinars and pre-recorded videos to help you get started.
And so you said it uses Google Translate, which we know can be a little erratic sometimes. Can you override that text if it's not quite right?
Yeah, so anything that Google translates, if you have the appropriate keyboard, so obviously Chinese, Russian, we don't necessarily have the right keyboard, but anything where you have the correct alphabet letters, you can overwrite, yes. So I think with Google Translate, it's sort of 95%-ish accurate for short, single words and short phrases, but less accurate for longer sentences and paragraphs. So it is not on the document side for that reason, but everything is fully editable. The only warning I would issue is homophones. So is it wind or is it wind? Is it minute or is it minute? So if you do have a native speaker, then it's worth double checking those. However, if you don't have any support at all, it's better than nothing.
Brilliant, thank you. So our next question is, and you might have to put your screen share back on again, could you show again the read aloud option for flashcards?
Of course, yeah. So bear with me while I get the screen back on. So you create your resource, whatever resource that you create, and you save it. Once you've saved it, it will appear on your home screen, and it's the view option that you want. So I'll show you a dual language one, seeing as I've got one here. Where you've got dual language, you would click on the English to read it in English. Again, I'm not sure whether that's coming through to you. and in this case Korean, and it was Korean. Just a reminder again, that direct link is at the bottom of any resource that you create, and that's the link that you can post on websites, homework pages, send in an email, and this resource then can be viewed on a phone or a tablet or a computer. So really useful, really useful for social stories going home, that can be then viewed on a phone. Okay. So I'll come out again, just so that I can see you. Is that it?
Yeah, there you go.
All the technical.
Replaced by a weather symbol. You're the weather lady. Excellent. Gavin, what's the next question, please? So the question is, could we use that option of Google to translate sentences too?
So no, not in the document side. You can obviously choose a template that is just a one cell template, and then you can obviously write more text in that. So you could write a sentence in that. And I have known people use it for something like, on Friday it is Red Nose Day, or, on Friday it's comic relief, for a sentence like that. So you could in that respect, but not lots of text on the document side, no.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you, Sue. So we have another question from somebody, but actually, could you just remind us what your email address is? It's sue@widgit.
Just sue@widgit.com.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So
Widgit, Widgit with an IT. It's a computer company, so we a lot of things go astray because the spell check puts an E in. But yeah, sue@widgit.com.
Gavin's nodding his head at me.
It's been a nightmare making all these adverts and stuff.
There you go, spell check needs correcting him.
Yeah.
So Julia would like to talk to you about their local authority use of Widgit for their Perry teams. So we will put the two of you in contact with each other outside of this meeting.
We've just been doing some projects actually with Central Bedfordshire has just bought what's called a multi-subscription account, which is top level account, and all schools have accounts within that. And one of the areas in Hertfordshire has done the same thing as well. So yes, very happy to talk about local education authority deals where discounts do occur.
That's what we like to hear. And if Central Bedford is on at the moment, I'm delivering your keynote speech in June. No incidents, I promise. That was actually the last question lurking on. We've got a perfect from Julia. Thank you, Julia. So that was actually the last question lurking on there for you. So it was a really good session, actually. So my school refused to buy Widgit. Let's just not even go there. So I inherited a folder where somebody had managed to print off some at their previous school before they moved to us. And we used to scrabble around going, let's photocopy that bit and we'll cut that one out and we'll cut that one out and we'll use that. And we used to use them as physical resources because they wouldn't let me do it properly. But the world has moved on in terms of technology, and I think people are embracing it more now. So I would hope, I think they would use it.
Yeah,
a little more
good.
faithful.
Oh, yeah, no, I think just to encourage people, if you've not used it, is to have a go at the free trial. But just in terms of primary schools in the UK now, we have probably around 6,000 primary schools who have subscribed to Widgit Online. So it really is beginning to be used for, much more widely than just a single sort of SEN child, sat in a classroom sort of thing.
Absolutely. And, in fact,
and I hope that's cleared up. I would just say, I hope that's cleared up a little bit about Widgit Online and Imprint 3. I know it is very confusing. But again, please come through if there are any other questions around it.
Definitely made sense to me, and I've got Gavin to refer to if I get stuck. I was going to say, I know that one of my local primary schools, they actually use it for every single lesson for every single student, which is it's great. My only slight hesitation is when they go to the secondary school, and the secondary school don't use it at all. And that's kind of scaffold disappears a little bit. And I just want to say to people, this is not just a primary resource. It can be used at secondary level, probably not as a whole class resource, to be fair, but certainly to support our weaker students who are struggling with literacy or just struggling with that complete overwhelm that we have. but also to create those resources that we need all of the time, your social stories, your now and next boards, your visual timetables, all of those bits and pieces that will give them some familiarity and really help them to transition to secondary in a safe and secure manner, if you like. So it's certainly worth the secondary too.
Absolutely agree, and totally agree with everything you said there, Abigail. But and the very least, I think subject teachers in secondary schools can use it for their tier 3 vocabulary, which the leap between the language in primary and the cognitive load of language in secondary is huge.
Definitely. And I know that quite a few secondary schools around has used the Rosenshine principle. So all the children have their knowledge organisers with their key vocabulary in it and a couple of diagrams. Actually, it's not that difficult to take that knowledge organiser, whip it through Widgit. Sorry, it's going to be a new catchphrase. Whip
I
it
like
through
that.
Widgit.
Yes.
And you've actually got something that all of your students can use. Okay, you may not give it to every student, but actually it would really support those students who struggle. Those knowledge organisers can be incredibly cluttered and difficult to follow at times, and a bit of dual coding, a few of those images and symbols on there would really, really support some students. So secondary definitely need to look at it too. You've got lots of people saying thank you very much for that, Sue. So I'd like to say thank you too. If we have any more questions, you know that we'll be emailing you. Okay.
Of course,
Dropping
that's
you
not a problem at all.
And we will put you and Julia in touch with each other. Gavin's glaring at me through the ring light. I'm not sure why.
No, I just want to say that
Overtime.
if you need to look back at anything, you'll be able to see it on the YouTube channel on Saturday. Simples.
There you go. So if anybody wants to watch this back again, you can see it on Saturday on the YouTube channel, and we'll make sure there's a link in the Facebook group and from the website for you so you can access that. Sue will make sure you get a link as well so that you can watch it back as well.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Lovely to be with you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Take care and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.